Hi, I'm Kathy Perret. I'm with the City of Santa Barbara's Water Conservation. Today we're going to talk about that term all gardeners have heard but not everyone understands: water deeply to make your plants healthier. What does watering deeply mean? How does it affect the plants? And as a gardener, how do we know if we've actually reached the root zones and we've filled it up for the plant and so that they can be healthy and water-wise and more drought tolerant? Let's take a look here. This is just a plant we want to get rid of, but it's doing really, really well. I want to see how deep down the roots are. One of the things I want to show you here is adding organic matter keeps the soil so nice and moist. This is mulch. It's a good 3 to 4 inches deep. And as we go down here, I want to see how deep the roots to this plant go. They do grow horizontally because it's a weed. They're very opportunistic. They're going to go wherever there's moisture and nutrients. So let's see what we got here. This is a great example of what deep, at least 8 inches, infrequent. This garden is low water using, water-wise plants. They get watered about every 5 days, and they have 3 to 4 inches of mulch, keeping the soil cool and reducing the evaporation so that we're getting the biggest benefit of the water that's being added to the plants. Think about the plant and its root zone as a gas tank. If you have 8 inches of roots, so this bucket is 8 inches. This plant has 8 inches of root structure. If I were to fill this all the way up with water and then leave it for multiple days, the plant is going to be able to absorb the water and the nutrients that are stored in the gas tank. It's going to evaporate some water off the surface. Pretty close to, in a week's time, it's going to evaporate almost an inch of water. So then, after that time frame, you can come back in, you refill the gas tank. You don't want to overfill it, it runs off the property. You don't want to water it too long at that point because it's going to go, if you water more than that, it's going to go beyond the root zones and the plant's not going to be able to use the water. That's the reason why we're watering deeply and how the plants actually get much more advantage from the nutrients in the water you apply. If we were to look at this gas tank and you're only watering on the surface, your gas tank is tiny. You can only allow your plants about 40% of evaporation and water use before you start seeing stress. The next step is, how do we create deeper roots? How do we get a big gas tank that can feed this plant, that can provide the moisture that's necessary and extend the life of our garden with more efficient application of water and it easier for the gardener? You're not out there every single day. Let's talk about a couple of steps that we can do to try and train our plants to grow a nice deep root structure. Whether you're a longtime gardener or a brand new person putting in your new babies into the landscape, you can start to try and train the roots of your plants to grow deeply, to look for that moisture, to build the biggest gas tank possible. One of the things to think about is in the spring, after we've had some rain, the soil is saturated. Now is the time to let the soil dry a little bit on the surface. Let it go down 2 inches before you add water. Don't just automatically start watering 3 days a week or every other day. If you do that, the soil will start to dry out. The plants will never be motivated to grow deeper and look for moisture, and what you end up with is a plant that, in our low water conditions, or if you have an irrigation break, it suffers. In fact, it could die in less than a week with no water. So as you're watering, make sure that you water deep enough. This is going to require that you kind of get involved, get your hands dirty. What I'm going to have you do is water for enough time, and depends on your soil. If you have clay soil, you may need to water very slowly. And even you may need to water maybe 20 minutes and then wait an hour and then come back and water another 20 minutes. Clay soil doesn't absorb water very fast, but it holds water for a long time. If you happen to live where the soil is sandy, you have another challenge. That water just goes straight through. So you don't want to water for 20 minutes at a time because you're going to water beyond the root zone. You can amend those soils, organic matter, adding mulch. Over the years, you're going to have some beautiful loam soil and your plants are going to thank you. So let's go back. We've watered it now. We've waited an hour after we've watered. We're going to move the soil. We're going to use a small trowel or a shovel or a soil probe, and we're going to see how deep the moisture is. These plants don't need much water, but I'm 8 inches down. I'll pull up the dirt. It's cool. It's not very wet, but it is moist, which means that the mulch that's on here is holding the moisture in under this plant. It's hard to show you. You kind of have to get your hands on it. You can squeeze it, you can feel it. If it's cool, if it's moist, and then you can break it up. That's really nice soil. This has got a lot of mulch. Over the years, it's had a lot of organic matter. This garden gets watered once a week. Right now, it's towards the end of its watering cycle, but you're not seeing any stress on the plant because it has a really deep gas tank. It's got deep roots. It's not stressing. We're going to refill that up with some water the next time it irrigates and let it do its thing and enjoy its blossoms. Thanks for spending time in the garden with me today. And I hope that we were able to explain what water deeply actually means, and that you can take this home and you can do it in your own garden. If it's the middle of summer, you're going to want to start slowly for your plants if they've been being watered every day or every other day. Stretch it out. As you get to 3 days out, increase the time because you know you're going to need to put that water in there, and check where the water is. Get your hands dirty. Feel the soil, feel the life. Enjoy your garden. Thanks so much for joining us today. And if you have any questions at all, please visit waterwisesb.org.